Hello everybody, welcome to today's video. I'm your host, Uyobong Jonah. I'm a legal associate with Lex-Praxis solicitors. In this video, we'll be talking about annual return. We'll be answering all your questions on annual return. This video is proudly sponsored by Lex-Praxis solicitors. I'm not alone. I have with me a seasoned lawyer, corporate and commercial lawyer, and principal of Lex-Praxis solicitors in the person of Cynthia Asuko. You're welcome, Ma. Thank you for joining us on today's video.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, let's dive right in to today's video. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. What is annual returns? I'm very sure business owners, founders of non-profit organizations are aware of what annual returns is. So, would you please give us an insight on what annual return is?
Okay, sure. So annual returns is a mandatory requirement um, by law as it concerns all registered entities in Nigeria. And by registered entities, I'm referring to business names, limited liability companies, and non-profit organizations that are registered as incorporated trustees. So the law requires that after registration, every of such kinds of entities required to file their annual returns yearly. Now, the purpose of annual returns is just to inform the Corporate Affairs Commission that that entity or organization is still an ongoing concern. So let me just break it down in layman's terms. Annual returns is just a way of a registered entity, whether a business name or limited liability company or NGO, to just tell the Corporate Affairs Commission after registration that, oh, okay, hello, I am here, oh, our company is still here, or our business name, as the case may be. The registered address that we provided when we are registering is still the same, or it has changed, if it actually changed, right? And this is the new address. We are two proprietors when we registered this business, but now we have removed one proprietor and we replaced a new one, or we removed and we didn't replace. Okay, we didn't do business. This was our net turnover, this was our net asset. So you're just giving them information. The reason behind that is so that the Corporate Affairs Commission can always update their records for the purpose of public search. You know, sometimes, of course, your information as a company is it's on public record, right? So if I want to go and investigate a particular company, the CAC has to ensure that they are providing an updated information. So that's just what annual returns is all about.
Having said this, when is it due, or does it depend on the kind of business entity that one owns? When would you say that annual returns is due for a company, or a business name, and for a non-profit organization?
Okay, so annual returns is actually filed once every year. Let's establish that fact. That's why it's annual returns. You make returns on a yearly basis, right? But the time when it is due, it varies from one type of entity to another. So in the case of a business name, the law says that every registered business name is required to file annual returns on or before the 30th of June after the year of registration. So let's say a business name was registered in 2024, right? Let's say it was registered in February 2024. That business name will not be required to file annual returns in 2024 anymore. It will file annual returns on or before the 30th of June in 2025, right? In the case of a
Yeah.
limited liability company, the law requires that that limited liability company will file annual returns after 18 months. So 18 months after incorporation or registration, that limited liability company will be required to file annual returns. So if a company was registered in, let's say, February 2024, the company will be required to file annual returns 18 calendar months after February, after that month it was from the month it was registered. So between February 2024 to, that's like we are looking at maybe late, if I'm correct, late 2025 or sometime in early 2026, right? Yeah, it should be late 2025. So 18 months after incorporation. Then in the case of a non-profit organization that is usually registered as an incorporated trustee, the law also requires that non-profit organization to file annual returns 18 months from the date it was incorporated. So I hope I've been able to uh,
Yes. Thank you so
clarify
much
that.
for the explanation. So now for small business owners and persons who just incorporated a company or whatever entity, does this annual return apply to them? Because I have many people um, who have said, because I'm a business, I'm a small business owner, I just incorporated my company, company is still fresh, it's still new. Do I need to file annual return? So what do you have to say about that?
Okay, I'm not sure I get the question. When you say it is still fresh or new, are you saying fresh or new in terms of it hasn't done business, or what do you mean?
Okay, a newly incorporated company that has not started operations.
Oh, okay. So every entity that hasn't commenced so let's just put it this way. Every entity, whether business name or limited liability company or non-profit organization, must file annual returns. And it doesn't matter whether or not you are new or whether or not you haven't done business. So long as it is due, you have crossed or met the time frame in which you're due to file that annual returns. You're required to file it. It doesn't matter whether or not you actually carried out business activities or operations.
All right. So now that we've been able to establish the time frame uh, for filing these annual returns, what would you have to say for some business owners who would want to wait until days after their filing is due? What do you have to say about that? For what are the consequences of late filing?
So okay, so first for one, the compounding effect, the compounding penalty fees is one of the things you suffer when you decide to delay complying on a yearly basis, right? So when you fail to file your annual returns on time, as at the due dates that I mentioned earlier, if you still decide to file your annual returns after those dates, sure, it's permissible. The only thing is that you will now be required to pay additional fees that are regarded as penalty fees, right? So imagine if you decide, or that business owner or NGO founder decides not to file at all, and they decide to file not to file for years on end, and they finally decide to file subsequently, they are going to be accumulating all the penalty fees and filing fees that they have failed to, pay as at the time of filing, as at when they were supposed to file, right? So failure to file on time incurs huge penalty fees. Another thing is that your business poses a risk of being deactivated in the future. So the law authorizes the Corporate Affairs Commission to, from time to time, delist registered entities, and it's usually after the entities that are registered or incorporated within a time frame of 10 years plus and are, in the opinion of the commission, regarded as not carrying out any activities. Of course, if you are actually carrying out operations, the best way to they can know is when you're filing annual returns, right? Yes, so that's another thing. You stand that risk of being delisted. Another thing is you may not be able to carry out post registration or incorporation changes. So let's say, for instance, in your company, along the line you incorporated that company with two members, right, two directors, and maybe along the line you discover that okay, you don't want to continue with this other person and you want to remove that person. And so of course it's still the Corporate Affairs Commission that will do that for you, right? But when you come to them and they check their records, that's the first thing they do. They check, has this company that is applying to remove a director or a shareholder, have they even been filing annual returns up to date? And if they check and the company hasn't filed, they will tell you, Sorry, sir, sorry, madam, please, before we can attend to you, this application, please go and file your annual returns up to date. So you can't even effect any post incorporation changes if you haven't been filing your annual returns up to date. And fourthly, there are other consequences in terms of brand perception. Imagine if you're applying for a grant or a donation or a funding, and maybe your donors or investors are going to run a private search on you, and then they go on the portal, and then they are seeing that your company status is inactive or struck off or something like that. That's a very wrong perception of your brand. So I think with this I've mentioned and so many more that I haven't mentioned because of time, I believe. Those are the consequences of not filing your annual returns as at when due.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you very much. Let's talk about documents now. As a business owner, do I need my PCC or tax identification number to file annual return?
Oh, okay. So you don't need a tax identification number. You're not. This is not a tax filing, right? So generally speaking, to file annual returns, you just need to provide. You just need information about the company. So the name of the company, the registration number of the company, the details of the members of the companies, their address, their ID card, um, yeah, their contact information, that is phone number and email address, right? Their service address, their residential address, um, yeah, just basically that. And then in the case of a company or a non-profit organization and even a business name, financial record statements. So it could either be an audited statement or a statement of affairs as the case may be. So yeah, just those.
All right, you mentioned annual returns is not. So why are they charges in the course of filing? Would you say is that not a form of?
Okay, so every government organization needs funds to run and operate, right? You're basically filing annual returns to enable the commission to be able to keep your information on their database. It takes money to do that. So that fee you pay, it's an administrative expense. It's an administrative charge. It's not tax per se. Yeah.
All right. So you also mentioned that part of the documents that business or company particularly needs in filing annual returns is a audited financial statement. So what's the
Yes.
difference between audited financial statements and statement of affairs? Find that these two
Okay.
documents are required in the course of the application. So what's the difference?
Okay, so audited financial statements applies in cases where a business or a company or even a non-profit organization has been carrying out some form of actual business activity, profit-making activity, right? So if they have been, or the NGO has been receiving donations, right? So if they've been operating by way of buying and selling. The account is receiving funds, revenues by way of business transactions. Then what the appropriate financial record statements to be provided is the audited financial statement. But in situations where a business name or an NGO or a company says they've not been carrying out operations, right? The appropriate financial documents to be provided is the statement of affairs, just stating that we haven't actually been in business, but our assets, these are the states of our assets in figures. This is what we have, and this is how it still is. Um, Now, the financial, in filing annual returns, these things are very, very important because if for the purpose of whoever is filing on your behalf, you have an oath. Um, in a situation where you misrepresent information when you're filing returns, you stand the risk of being penalized or even charged to court, right? So it's very important that when you're putting out statements or information, including financial records, you have to do it the right way. You can't just pick up figures and say this was my net asset, this was my turnover for the year. That's wrong. So ethically speaking, you're supposed to be having financial records that is prepared by an audited, like by a chartered accountant or auditor, right?
So, in your opinion, which one is best suited for a non-profit organization?
It depends. It's still the situation applies. It depends. If the organization has been receiving, if the non-profit organization has been receiving donations, right? Because of course NGOs are established for the purpose of promoting a charitable cause. They are not involved in buying and selling. They don't maintain themselves through buying and selling, right? So if they've been receiving donations and making use of those funds, they are liable to make audited returns, right? But if they have not commenced any form of operation, then the statement of affairs will suffice.
All right. Before we wrap up, what's your general advice to business owners, founders of non-profit organizations?
Okay, so first of all, annual returns is not a form of tax, so there's nothing to be scared of. So long as you're a registered entity, it's a mistake for you to assume that just having your business registered, especially in Nigeria, is enough. All around the world, this requirement is a global requirement. Every registered entity is required to file annual returns with the corporate registry of that country. Now, it helps with your brand image. It puts you in the right standing with government authorities. It also helps with, brand perception as well. And also, as a business owner or a founder of a nonprofit, you need to make adequate plans while you're making budgets for your marketing and branding and other aspects of running a business or a nonprofit organization. Please make plans or make budgets for compliance. And annual returns filing is one of it, right? Imagine the compounding cost effect of failure to file your annual returns as at when due. Imagine, let's say for instance, the cost of filing your annual returns is, let's say, 10,000. I'm not saying that's the cost. You're supposed to do this in a year. You're supposed to do this yearly, on a yearly basis. You pay 10,000 naira. You budget 10,000 naira for filing your annual returns as a business, and you fail to do that for 10 years. This is something you're supposed to do on a yearly basis, and you fail to do that for 10 years. Can you imagine the compounding cost you're going to be? And then you're faced with a situation whereby it's now mandatory for you. Let's say maybe you want to apply for visa as a business owner. We've seen that situation, with clients a lot. You want to apply for a visa as a business owner, and they are saying that your business is not active. Now you need to start filing annual returns. Just imagine the costs you've already accumulated over the time, as against if you were filing this on a yearly basis, right? So make adequate budgets after incorporating your business, whether it's a non-profit or a company, for compliance, and annual returns is one of it. Okay, I hope after this session you'll be able to take the right action, or you'll be convinced to take the right action, when it comes to compliance after registering your entity.
All right. Thank you so very much for that advice and for taking our time to join us in today's session. I believe you all heard her. I believe you all take the appropriate steps with regards to filing your annual returns. All right, we've come to the end of today's video. Thank you so much for joining us. This is Cynthia. We look forward to more sessions with you. And
Thank you
for
for
our
having
viewers,
me.
you're welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining today's video. For more information, please visit us at lexpraxisng.com or visit any of our social media handles. If you have more questions on this subject matter, please leave a comment in the comment section and we'll make sure to attend to you. Till I come your way next time, do have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.